What's going on, everybody? Man, Eric Wilson for the Sports Arena, alongside my brother, Mr. Michael Carotenuto. And we just saw a bunch of stuff come down through Twitter and just all over social media. So, we had to talk about it because, in my opinion, the number one wide receiver in the NFL, maybe not for long, posted something. Of course, then it got deleted, which I still don't get, but it is what it is. DeAndre Hopkins posted something, and I want to read directly what the tweet said. It said, "Never thought I would say this, but being in a position to hurt my team because I don't want to partake in the vaccine is making me question my future in the NFL." So, Mike, when we look at this team and we know what Arizona's about, and we know they were truly comprising themselves to be a contender, not just in the NFC West, not just in the NFC, but a true contender to make a run for that chip, now potentially losing a key figure piece. I got to talk to you, brother, and get your thoughts about it. And also, Jon Shearer, Sideline Sports, Cardiac Kane is with us as well. So, Mike, go ahead, man.
Yeah, look, DeAndre Hopkins always had a mind of his own. We know he doesn't have an agent. He's negotiated his contracts. You and I have talked in the past that, Ray Allen was – maybe other NBA guys did, but before that, Eric, Ray Allen said, I'm just going to hire a law firm. I'm going to pay the one-time huge fee, and it's going to save him millions, which good for Ray Allen. But DeAndre Hopkins is that thoughtful person. I do think he weighs things. And look, everything with the vaccine, and I've said this to you, and we were even saying this, I said this to Alex earlier too. I get everybody, and you and all of us were frustrated about it being a political tool on both sides. Politicians using it. Look, I have two cousins that are doctors. They're not on TV getting paid. No, they don't know everything, although kidding around with doctors, of course, they do know everything, right? But I did my own research. I got the vaccine for me. I had a sore arm 2 times. I think I told you this. I had a sore arm 2 times, and that was it. My sister on the second one, she's a teacher. She chose to get it. But I look at it this. If you do the research, I do it for me. I don't care what a politician says. Yes, people should vote, and they're trying to run the country. That's a whole nother story for another time. But when it comes to sports, I just feel athletes kind of got put into this. So you want to think for yourself, and people are saying, "Oh, we don't know what it does." I've said to you guys a million times, I'm just glad we were in the age group to where we couldn't go first. So again, I'm not wishing anything bad on anybody, but if there was really bad things with all the vaccines, I would have been cool, I'm not getting it until they fix it.
Right.
We actually got lucky not going first. But to answer your question about DeAndre Hopkins, he's been that guy. Even, when he was with the Texans, you saw it, but coming to Arizona, just getting him to talk to media more and stuff like that. I get not wanting to have it, but I was just saying to you before we started, I get, and we can get into this after John goes too, I get leagues saying there is a solution. We can come to an agreement on something if you're going to choose not to do it, which you have the right to do. We're not kicking you out of the league, but if you get it and you cost your team games, could we see, we hate ties in the NFL. Could we see our first ever, true forfeits?
I don't know. Jon Shearer, appreciate your time, brother. Talk to me about this. Give me your thoughts on this situation.
Well, yeah, first of all, I'm not somebody that's for the vaccine. So what I'm going to say is not at all trying to push the vaccine on anybody, but I got it because I have kids and I want to protect them and stuff like that. And I want to be at these events, whenever I cover games and things like that. So I got it for, my own reasons, but I got it, much of my chagrin. Anyway, I think, DeAndre Hopkins, he has his own right to whether he gets it or not, but he also has to pay the consequences of if he doesn't get it and he plays and they forfeit games, that's on him. If something happens, to him as an NFL player, he knows the rules. Everybody knows the rules. They already set this. So it's not like it's a surprise to him. There's still, I believe, 65% of the players have been vaccinated. So that's quite a bit, but there's still a lot to go. And they're not trying to force this on them. They're just trying to, they're trying to get it done, get out of the way so everybody can, so we can have fans, so everybody can make money, so the games can happen, so all that stuff, so everybody can be safe. There's a lot of factors that go into this, but if DeAndre Hopkins is going to tweet something like that, don't delete it. You only look worse by deleting it. and then trying to back it up by adding another tweet. You only look worse by doing that.
And that's my point. My point is, listen, it's 280 characters, however many it is. You got something you want to say. You have the platform to do so. But if that's how you feel, then stick to your word. Don't delete it, because clearly once it's out there, it's out there. And that's my biggest piece. And John, to your point, you're absolutely right. The rules are set in place because at the end of the day, this is a business. Granted, these 1,553 men get the opportunity to do what so many of us, millions of us, wish we could do. With that comes responsibility, and with that also comes accountability. And I love D-Hop. And it bothers me in this regard. You knew what you needed to do in order to stay the course that you were currently on. You are one of 53 men on a team in the NFL who people, whether they idolized you, looked up to you, considered you a role model, love your story, hate your story, whatever. You have a responsibility. On the flip side of that, what I will say is he has that choice and he has that right. It's going to be a shame if we lose DeAndre Hopkins because of this. But at the end of the day, he can't blame anybody except the man in the mirror. And that's where I'm torn, because as a fan of his, I want to see him play. But as a man in his position, you have got to take responsibility and be ready to deal with the consequences of your actions or non-actions.
But
so
Eric,
go ahead, Mike.
Sorry, I was going to say to go one step further too. I mean, they also on teams were lessening restrictions. If 85% of a team, as we all know, we've seen this number. If I see 85% one more time this week, like I'm going to go crazy. But I get it. Like 85% of the team had to be vaccinated. I mean, and again, I'm not bringing to the Cowboys. I just saw their training camps of yesterday. They're not at the 85% mark. So again, like John said, like you have kids. My theory, and that's what I was saying for the vaccine, I was indifferent either way. I'm not even saying I was against it or for it. I literally like in the middle. I have no problem getting it. Like I said, seeing, as much as I hate to say it, the guinea pigs go first, and people that have pre-existing conditions. And yeah, Johnson & Johnson did have the issue with the blood clots, and that was stopped for a while. They worked through that. Like, if you can do the research and for yourself, like we're taught as a little kid, like you learn how to talk, you learn how to read. Just don't, like you said it perfectly, Eric. Don't look at the 240 characters on Twitter and that's the end of the news cycle. Like, be smart enough to do your own research. John, you have kids. I obviously call on a lot of broadcasts. I'm around kids. I had a call, like I told you this last year, Eric. It was annoying. Like 3/4 of my games in a mask. Like, and I worked my mixer to finally make it sound like, and not that I talk quiet, but in a broadcast, but still like how to even enunciate a little more, not talk slow, but not to sound muffled either, where to put the microphone. You adapt to it. So yes, I'm not going to rip somebody for not getting it. Like I said, I was saying to Eric in the beginning, John, I'm ripping people that take a political side and just make it a campaigning tool and this and that, the vaccine, this and that. Do your research. You talk to doctors. And I'll say this about football players too. You're right, because we call them warriors. I've had good friends and family that served in the military. You realize too, if you're in the military, it's not that they don't tell you what they're putting in you, but you're going to war, you're going to battle. They vaccinate you for things. You did sign your life over in a way. Yes. I mean, it sounds terrible. You volunteered, but I mean, you signed to go with their things. I've had friends in battle saying, I mean, they let them know what it was. Obviously it's military. It's highly tested before it hits anybody else. I understand that. So, I mean, I'm not laughing at it, but the people say, well, you're using
I get what you're saying.
So you go into these zones and you're getting vaccinated. So I get people, again, the right for us not being told what to want to do. But my theory is do the homework. And for football, and John, I was saying to Eric before we started, like I know college football, the conferences are already basically leaning towards, they're not postponing. If you can choose not to get it, and that's fine. And they're not trying to say, well, but we're going to make you get it. But they won't postpone, because for coaches that did, I mean, the NCAA pretty much made their coaches. I know that the word made is a bad word, but the coaches pretty much all did. The staffs did. So again, you can choose not to, but my theory is look into it. What are you doing the research for? Yeah. Did I have some concerns? I didn't just sit there and do the research and, think like, oh, this couldn't be bad. But I mean, for having a sore arm twice, I'm not complaining. Everybody had different symptoms I get afterwards. But I think as a football player, again, as Warriors, like, do the research, and there's been enough time. And I mean, they have obviously a little bit more resources anyway, money-wise. So, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins could do it. Do I support a person in saying, no, I don't want to? Sure. But when you're hurting the greater good too, I mean, again, there has to be consequences. We all love to talk out of both sides of our mouth as we always get around. I mean, our trash talking aside, we always, of course, like to favor our teams or favor something. And again, I'm not saying DeAndre Hopkins is wrong, but I'm not going to say DeAndre Hopkins is right. Just like I'm not saying because I got the vaccine, and like John's saying too, that I'm pushing it on people and I'm right and they're wrong for not. Do what you want to do. But companies, I mean, there's still, with the Delta variant, we're talking about it today, there's companies here, there's certain things here where you still have to go in and wear a mask. And yet, even though the governor took it down, people are still whining. My theory is I don't like it, but you know what? I'm vaccinated too. If I have to go in somewhere and wear a mask, we've done it for a year. What's the big deal? Like, seriously, are you going to cry that much? And to me, that's the problem. People not offering anything, like John saying, to do stuff for, his kids, or like you're saying of what we're doing, Eric, but like, do the research and then, okay, fine. If there's some reason as to why you can't, rock on, but wear a mask. There's options for everything. They're giving you outs for everything. So you have to wear a mask in public. Who cares?
John, I'm gonna let you get the final word on this, and then we're gonna put a pin in this. And I'm sure this conversation is far from over.
Yeah, like I said, DeAndre Hopkins or Cole Beasley. I mean, let's not forget Cole Beasley. He is against it. I mean, I don't know, did you see what Mark Cuban said to him? Did you catch that?
I didn't. What did he say?
Oh,
all right. So Cole Beasley basically said, if stock in Pfizer is bought for his wife, he'll get the vaccine. And then I believe Mark Cuban came out and said he would put a 3.75% stock for Cole Beasley's wife in her name. He would buy it for her. And he would give it to her. And he said, what do you think about that, Cole Beasley? So I haven't heard anything about that, but Mark Cuban's trying to get Cole Beasley vaccinated by buying his wife's stocks. So that way, Cole Beasley will get vaccinated. So that way he stops, not necessarily being against it, but stops, pushing not getting it. So, I mean, that's pretty cool that Mark Cuban's, going that route, trying to help the greater good, if you will. I mean, that's pretty nice of him. I mean, he's a billionaire. He's willing to spend some of his money so that way, a guy in a different sport goes and gets vaccinated. So,
right. Yeah. Let me ask you this real quick. I mean, and again, I just feel that, like I said, political or not, it's both sides, John. Like, do you feel people are people that are so far against it, and if they have even a bigger platform than, say us or some others, whatever, that they're saying, oh, you guys are all wrong for getting it. And then they're just starting arguing with people on the other side saying, well, you're all wrong for not, because you're holding things up to help the pandemic end.
I don't see any point in arguing, because, I mean, like you said many times, throughout these 13 minutes, everybody should have their choice. They should have their decision, and you live with it, and there's consequences whether you get it or not. Whether those consequences are good or bad, there are consequences. So, just let people live with what they want to decide, whether they get it or not. Let them decide. Let them live with what they decide, much like DeAndre Hopkins and Cole Beasley. Let them live, and how the chips fall is how the chips fall.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about deleting tweets too, real quick, Eric, is that, like, it is silly when you delete it. I will say this, like, somebody with those big platforms and numbers, like, if you sit there and, like Herm Edwards said, you don't have to hit send. You can type something out in madness and frustration. And yeah, not just because I'm wearing my ASU stuff, but Herm Edwards did say that on NFL Live millions of times. You don't have to hit send. So when you do tweet into motion, you're right. It's always up there, but taking it down and kind of going a little bit backwards after you get done with being completely frustrated and, I guess you could say screaming on your computer by typing, that's one thing. But you're right. It's out there. People know it.
Yeah. There's a screenshots of that tweet that will never go away. So As much as he wants to delete it, it's there forever.
It's and people are going to talk about it as we are right here today on the Sports Arena. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Like I said, this conversation is going to be continued. We're going to talk about this, I'm sure, over the next couple of days. And depending on what transpires because of this, I'm sure it's going to be a topic of conversation. Join us every Monday and Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern right here. Mike Carotenuto, Believe in the Pac-12 podcast. Jon Shearer, Sideline Sports Cardiac Cane, and your man Eric Wilson. We will talk to you guys really soon. Everyone have a great Thursday. See ya.